Let's give a warm South Carolina welcome to Ryan McCarty.
Thank you guys so much. Thank you for clapping for me. I think I have the only job on earth where people clap when you show up to work, which is really amazing, because could you imagine on Monday morning when you walk into your office, people just start clapping for you? Life would be really different, wouldn't it? Most of the time somebody's waiting there to complain or maybe have a problem, but I get claps when I get to work. So thank you so much for that. I'm really excited to be with you, very honored to be with you today. Thank you so much for that amazing introduction. It was amazing to kind of hear someone talk about yourself in that context. I wish my parents were here. They'd be far more proud of me than they are, I think. My daughter Brenna is back here. Brenna, stand up. She just turned 21 2 days ago. So they're not clapping for you, they're clapping for me. I have a 21-year-old daughter, so everybody keep me in your prayers, please. But we had a ton of fun. I rented a party bus for her and her friends. It was a surprise party. The party bus shows up. There's 22 seats on it. We had like 20 people on there. It was amazing. But what I didn't realize is that on the party bus, there was a pole right in the middle of it. So I think I'm the only dad in history that's rented a party bus with a pole right in the middle for his daughter, which is a little bit strange, but sometimes it just happens that way, you know? If you've ever been to Indiana, you know I'm not the only dad who's done that. Let's just put it that way. No, I'm really excited to be with you today. What I do every time I go speak is I get everybody engaged, and I like to show how exciting and how excited everyone is to be here at the event. So here it is, trust. I'm going to ask you to do something with me here in just a moment. I'm an older millennial. I'm 42. I'm not really a millennial, but I call myself one. So I always do a selfie video with the crowd, and I get everybody involved, and everybody's standing up and cheering. I want you to throw chairs across the room, stand on the table, whatever you have to do to show the world how exciting There It Is Trust is, okay? You guys ready for this? All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to get this ready here. Now bear with me again. I said I'm 42 years old, so it takes a second. All right. Okay, all right. And then I'm just going to start this way. I'm going to scan the crowd as I go around. I want everybody to just cheer as crazy as you can. Now, I've been in conferences with engineers, and they were nuts. They were engineers, and they were crazy. I'm sure you guys can be engineers. Can you? Yeah. We're not so sure. We'll see, though. All right, so here we go. Let me see if I can get this right. All right, here we go. All right. I'm here with Heritage Trust, and we're rocking, and we're going to elevate today. Are you guys ready for this? Awesome. Oh, that didn't work. Let's do that one more time. No, I thought I was just going to sit and listen. Real excited again to be with you today. As Emily said, I run the culture of good. Haven't always done this, obviously. The first 20 years of my professional life was in the nonprofit field. And so I know what it feels like to wake up every day with a sense of meaning, a sense of fulfillment, a sense of knowing that what I do on a daily basis matters. And the reason that I went into nonprofit work was a significant moment in my life, a really devastating moment for me. And I want to kind of start telling my story and share with you why I do what I do. And hopefully by the end of today, our time together, you'll be inspired to wake up every day with a sense of meaning as well. So when I was 5 years old, my mother was diagnosed paranoid schizophrenic and had depression as well. My dad had met my mom when he came back from Vietnam. He came back from Vietnam a heroin addict. And so here I am at 5 years old. I have a dad who's addicted to drugs and a mom who is schizophrenic, and that's really the beginning of how my life started. Really difficult. If you would have looked at a little 5-year-old kid at that point, you would have assumed in that moment in that child's life, looking forward, there wouldn't be a whole lot of hope or purpose or significance in that child's life. See, my dad, when he came back from Vietnam, he was addicted to heroin and ended up at a VA hospital. My mother was a nurse at the hospital, so apparently when a nurse and a drug addict fall in love, you get me. And so here I am on earth, but at 5 years old, again, my mother was diagnosed schizophrenic. Within a year, her schizophrenia got worse and worse. By the age of 6, my older sister and I knew that something was definitely wrong. At 6 years old, I was in school on a particular day, learning about arithmetic and writing and learning how to read and just the basic stuff that kids learn. And my mother, in a tragic way that day, decided to take her own life. And that schizophrenia took over in her mental illness. It wasn't her, I know it wasn't her, but that's really this moment in my personal life where that was a defining moment. Those are the moments that happen in our lives, and they may happen when we're younger or older, but they happen. And sometimes life just happens, doesn't it? Sometimes life throws us a curveball and we're not ready for it. It happens throughout life as well, and all of us have a story to share today. If I had the opportunity to sit down at your table and listen to your story, I'm sure that there's some moment that's a defining moment in your life. It may not be the same tragedy that I faced, but there's a moment that you could say, I remember that moment in particular that really defined a lot of who I am and how I think and how I approach the world. And that's what happened for me at this early age. At 6 years old and 7 and 8, I realized that life at a very early age was fragile. I realized that in order to do something and be significant, I had to take the very hurt and pain of my own life. I know it's a very early thing to learn, but kids are resilient. And even though I went through that difficulty, I found myself, I remember even at an early age, asking myself, is this all there is hurt and pain in the world, or could I take that pain and turn it around for purpose? Could I take my own hurt and find a way to heal others? And that's really what embarked a life of looking for opportunities to make an impact and make a difference in the world for people. For other little Ryans walking around with broken families, for other adults who were facing drug addiction or mental illness. My life was defined in that moment, and from that day forward, I started looking for opportunities to impact the world in a positive way, even through my pain. So early on, I started asking those questions about purpose and why did I go through this and what now? My father, through that difficulty, found himself in a church one day and his life was transformed, and so that's how I got into ministry. Now, I'm not your typical ex-pastor. I say ex-pastor because I don't do that anymore, but I have tattoos and I smoke cigars and I drink beer and I rent party buses with poles in the middle, and that's just sometimes how it turns out. So I'm not your typical minister, but I always felt like ministry was something that all of us are called to. It's not a religious thing. It's more about how am I meeting the needs of those around me? How am I looking for opportunities to use my own pain, to use my own experiences, my own life, my own advantages? It's not only just about using your pain, but it's using your own privilege. It's using your advantages in life as well and saying, how can I use the resources that have been given to me, whether I asked for them or not, whether I earned them or not, whether I was the one who deserved it or not? How can I take that and lean my life into the world in such a significant way that every single day I can wake up with a sense of meaning? Is that possible? Do you think it's possible to wake up with meaning? Because I talk to people all the time and I think, you know what? It's easy to just fall into the mundane, everyday type work. And every day you get your what done and you have check boxes that you have to mark off. But to really have a sense of meaning, to wake up in the morning with meaning and to go to bed at the end of the day with a sense of fulfillment, how amazing would that be? That takes some self-leadership. That takes some self-awareness. That takes self-compassion. I've had to learn that throughout the years. I've had to learn what it means to have gone through difficulty and not blame myself. I've had to learn what it means to go through pain and be able to use that to help others and to heal others. Some people say it's the hurt people that hurt people, and I say it's the healed people that heal people. And when we allow ourselves to heal, when we allow ourselves to grow through our difficulty, it creates an opportunity for us to make a difference and an impact in this world that I've experienced has been an amazing thing. And I'd like to share some of my journey with you and share just how you can implement some of these practical ideas into your everyday life as well. And so later on in life, I had the opportunity to meet this wonderful woman. Her name's Katara, and we fell in love. I was 19 years old. I got married when I was 20 years old. She had a daughter, and I was able to adopt her. And I'd love to show you a picture of her. My wife is in the middle. Our daughter, Bria, is on your right. And Brenna, who you clapped for me for earlier, is on your left there. And Bria actually turned 26 on Valentine's Day, and so just several days ago. And as I said, Brenna turned 21. And Katara is an organizational coach, and they're all certified life coaches. And could you imagine? There was a time I was living with 3 certified life coaches. I have done a lot of self-work in the last few years. At the moment, I feel like I've arrived and I made it and I've got it all locked in. I have 3 life coaches in my house to remind me that I got a really long way to go. And so I know you're looking at Qatar and you're looking back at me and there's this big question mark. You're like, and you're like, how in the world could she get someone as good looking as Ryan? I know that's what's going through your head, but totally kidding, as you know. But just an amazing, amazing family that we've been able to experience life together and grow together. We started with just a few people in our house and built this amazing community of faith and went into Zambia, Africa and built a school for kids over there. And there's 10 classrooms there and kids are going to school that had no access to school in their life. Listen, in after school programs in Indiana and into Michigan and it's been an amazing, I would say it's more than a journey, it's been an adventure. How do you get from tragedy to a sense of like purpose and a sense of triumph? Not self-triumph, but triumph in terms of how you leverage what you've been through. How do you find meaning and fulfillment in life in those crazy moments? And we all have them. We'd like to think that life were just this straight line and very predictable and we can plan it all out, and it seems that life just circles and creates this crazy path for us, and it truly is an adventure. How do you get there? How do you get to a place where you wake up every morning with a sense of meaning, and how do you get to a place where you live throughout the day with a sense of belonging and then end the day with a sense of fulfillment? I'm glad you asked that question because that's kind of why I'm here, to share with you what that looks like. Go into your day with meaning. Every single one of us, every single day, of the, on average, 27,000 days that we're allotted on earth, have the opportunity to wake up every single day knowing that we matter. Here's what I believe. I believe that every person, whether subconsciously or consciously, wakes up wanting to matter. Asking the question, do I matter? If you can see it, everyone in here right now, around their neck, they have a sign that says this. It says, tell me I'm important. Because we want to matter. We want to have the sense that life has meaning. We want to have a sense that work has meaning. When I talk about bringing your soul to work, bringing your life and your soul and everything that you are we want to have an understanding that what we do matters beyond simply what we're doing. That there's a significant why that we begin our day with. I would say that the way that we start our day with meaning, if you want something very practical that has completely rocked my life, and this may seem very elementary, but I don't want to just talk about philosophies and theories here today. I want to give you very practical steps that you can begin implementing in your life right now, today. Are you guys ready for this?
Yeah.
All right, here we go. I need a little bit more enthusiasm than that. All right? All right, what I give is what I get, so give it to me. Are you guys ready for this? Yeah. All right, here we go. Gratitude. Start every single day with at least 5 minutes that you set aside, just 5 minutes, where you set that aside to be grateful. You say, well, what should I be grateful for? That's up to you. You know, there's days that I kind of like, what should I be grateful for this morning? And I think, you know what, I went out to my car and there were no flat tires. That's something to be grateful for. How many's ever gone out in the morning and you had a flat tire? How much time did you spend being ungrateful? I'm asking you for 5 minutes. You spent like an hour and a half complaining. You put it on Facebook, you took pictures, you complained about your neighbors. You're like, somebody let the air out of my tire. Like, you know, we spend hours of our day complaining. We spend hours of our day ungrateful. You have the power in your life, before you even show up at work in the morning, to spend time in gratefulness that not only has a psychological benefit, but a biological benefit. It actually creates new neural pathways within your brain that your mind is able to connect with the good that happens throughout your day. It takes time, but not very much time. When I first started practicing gratefulness in the morning, I didn't expect to wake up with a sense of meaning every day. But day after day, week after week, after about a month and a half, all of a sudden, I started feeling less stressed and didn't know why. No Xanax, no pills. I just felt okay. My anxiety was down. I felt less pressure at work. And I remember one day thinking, now, why do all of a sudden I feel more connected with people, with what I'm doing? And I remember the one thing that I changed, because you have to look back at what changed and what's been transformed. The one thing that I started doing different, that revolutionized my day, was practicing gratefulness. Gratefulness for other employees and peers that you work with. Can you just look at the person next to you and tell them, I'm grateful for you? Too much gratefulness. Back off a little bit. Now, I want you to practice something. That was the easy part. Even if you just met them this morning, tell them why. Tell them why. You've got 30 seconds. Tell them why you're grateful for them. Doesn't it? You say, well, that's just a feeling. Guess what? We're feeling people. Well, that's a touchy-feely stuff. That's who we are. We're human. Business is human. We have to remember that. And every single one of us wake up with a sense of wanting to matter, to have meaning in our life. Listen, what you do every day should never outdo why you do it. You should wake up every day with a sense of meaning because you practice gratefulness. But in order to practice gratefulness at work and in life, you have to know your why. You have to know why you do what you do. You know, a big part of Heritage Trust is trust. I talk about building a culture of trust all the time, and really self-leadership requires, and leadership in general requires trust. I can't lead those that don't trust me, and I can't lead those I don't trust. We talk about unity and service. We talk about teamwork and the construct of trust. And all of that is significant because all of that spells out why I do and why we do what we do on a daily basis. What you do at Heritage Trust is building a culture of trust. Trust with your members. Trust with those around you. By the way, last night I was at dinner. I have a little bit of ADD, so forgive me if I trail off for just a little bit. My daughter introduced us as Bonnie and Clyde to my waiter, and I thought, I'm about to go speak tomorrow at a financial institution. But then I was reminded that Bonnie and Clyde only rob from banks. They never rob from credit unions. But I bring Brenna up, and I showed you the picture of my family because they're my why. I know what it's like to have a broken family. I know what it's like to wake up in the morning and not know what the day's going to look like because you've lost your mom and your dad's on heroin. I know what that feels like. So there have been moments in my life that's been a compass for me. Somewhat of a guiding force in my own life where family has been a significant why in my life. And families and systems and businesses and credit unions are built in a construct of trust. That's a significant why when you walked in these doors and you look around, as you look around at others around you that do what you do and live the work life that you live, as you're working together in a sense of unity, you're not alone in this. There's opportunity for you to grow and discover significance at work, not just on the weekends after work, or not just in the evenings when work is over. I believe that we can walk into our day with a sense of meaning because we start with gratitude and we know our why and it's deep inside of our soul. And so we show up to work on a Monday morning, not grumbling, not complaining. Sometimes Monday can be the best day of the week because it's an opportunity to serve others. To find yourself in a sense of purpose and significance. To discover why you matter and why there's meaning in your day. What you do every day should never outdo why you do it. So what's your why? Why do you go to work every day? Is it just for a paycheck? If it's just for a paycheck, then the significance of who you are, you're really lessening yourself. If you realize you're worth more than a paycheck, that your time is worth more than what you get on a Friday, that you can spend on a Saturday, go back to work on a Monday, so that you can do the cycle all over again, that you sit there in that chair, breathing and alive, and you have purpose and you have calling, and you're a significant person, a significant human, not just in the construct of work, but in the world. How amazing is it to understand and go into the day with a sense of meaning, but then how do I end the day with fulfillment? Well, I want to answer that by what you do throughout the day. You spend your day belonging. We have to remember that business is a human endeavor because life doesn't end when you show up at work. There's no such thing as a work-life balance. It's a work-life harmony. There's no, well, when I'm at work, I'm at work. When I'm at home, I'm at home. We take work with us everywhere that we go. Am I right? Some of you answer your work email when you're on vacation. So there is no balance. Life is life, and work is a part of it. As a matter of fact, of the 27 average thousand days that you have on this earth, 1/3 of them is going to be spent at work. 1/3 of your life, on average, is spent at work. So why not figure out ways to belong, not just at home or outside, but also wherever we are? This idea of belonging really speaks to what is that internal brand and the messaging of Heritage Trust, and that is of unity. The sense of connection that we have to one another. This belief that when I walk down the hallway and I say hi and they say hi back and how you doing, it's not just a greeting. But every once in a while when I ask how you doing, I really want to know. Sometimes we ask how you doing, but we really don't want them to stop and tell us. You know what I'm saying? Because we're like, oh, this might be a really long story, and I got a lot to get done today. I've got members coming in the door. We got to move it out. So sometimes we don't even ask how you're doing. But taking the time with people to listen. So I want to be grateful for you today because you took the time to listen to my story. Our members that walk in the doors of each of your branches, they have a story. They're walking through life in the same way that you are. They're not just another number. The peers that you work with and employees that you work with, they have stories. They have hurts, they have pains, they're going through stuff. They have triumphs that we can celebrate. We can throw a party when it's time to party. We can sit down. We can listen when it's time to listen. But leadership and self-leadership, those that really practice self-leadership, I found, are those that have an ability to listen better than anyone else. When you get to a place where you listen to people, you're not just hearing what they're saying so you can come up with a response while they're talking.
It's good.
I do that with my wife all the time. She's talking to me and I'm trying to come up with a really smart response that sounds like I know what a coach would want to hear. You know what I'm saying? And sometimes she's like, you just need to stop for a moment and hear me. Sometimes I'm watching TV and ESPN is on and she's talking to me and I'll agree to stuff that I have absolutely no idea what I agree to. She asks me questions, I'm like, yeah. And then all of a sudden I realize I have no idea what I just said yes to. I have no clue. She's been talking to me for a few minutes and I missed it. To listen, we have to be intent. We have to stop. We have to remember that we have something to contribute to those around us. We have something within us that others need. We have a place. We belong. We remember that we connect to one another because when we show up fully as ourselves, it's not to just fit in. There's a difference between fitting in and belonging. I spend a lot of my time because of my own hurt and pain trying to fit in with different people. Different groups at school, trying to fit in, trying to find a place where others wouldn't reject me because I felt a sense of abandonment and rejection from my mom when she died of suicide. So I struggled with that for years, and it was all about fitting in. Until I heard this word belonging, and I realized I never really knew what a sense of belonging meant or felt like. And I spent 20 years in ministry and nonprofit work. When I got hired into corporate America, I saw that one of the greatest lacking things in the workplace, one of the greatest lacking traits that people have, something that is lacking is this sense of belonging. So many people show up to work in the morning and they're just going through the motions. But having true, genuine human connection to people, where we listen to people, where we understand that we have something to contribute, where I belong and you belong, and there's that sense of unity. I felt it when I walked in here this morning. You know, there's a difference when you walk into a room and there's an atmosphere of belonging, and then there's an atmosphere where you feel like you're at the junior high dance party, and everybody's up against the walls. You know the difference. You sense it and you feel it, and I felt it. as I was walking around the room, I started meeting different people. Steve introduced himself out in the hallway. Is it Nanicelli?
Very good, thank you.
Yeah. He actually pronounced it Nanicelli. And I was like, whatever you say. I'm not going to ask any questions.
It only gets too heavy, it takes.
And introduced Michelle back there. Wonderful person. And obviously Dustin and Emily and Jen. What a CEO you guys have. Why don't you give it up for Jen? Here's what I picked up on. I don't have to spend an entirely long time on this sense of belonging. But beyond just a feeling of connection, because you guys have it, I want to remind you that you have a calling in life to contribute based on your individual passion. In community, in doing good, and giving back, and volunteering, creating an opportunity where not only do you belong within the construct of your particular branch, but your branch, your credit union belongs in that community. Your community sees you as a belonging member of itself. That's powerful. That's powerful because each one of us have a calling, and we find our calling, whether we're a business owner, an employee, or we are the business. We find our calling when our greatest passion collides with our greatest contribution to make the world better. How can you leverage who you are as a business, as an organization, as a credit union within your community? How can you lean yourself into that community? Because we do belong to one another. Certainly we do. Our members that walk in the door, we have a sense of belonging. They're more, and they're not customers, they're members, aren't they? And that means something, doesn't it? Because that means more than just doing a financial transaction. There's something more substantial to that kind of relationship. And the reason that you have a significant why and you can wake up with meaning and a sense of gratitude is because not only do you belong to one another, but also you belong to the community where you do business. We find this calling. We don't hear about calling a whole lot in business, I know. But I believe that each one of us have a higher purpose in life to do something with what resources that we've been given, our own experience and our own story, and leaning our life into the world. But we find that calling when our greatest passion collides with our greatest contribution to make the world better. How do we do that? When I started getting into the nonprofit work, I had a mentor. He was significantly older than I was and had been in the type of work that he was, and reaching kids and doing significant work all over the world for years before we met. And he would look at me, and he had this long bony finger. He's a tall, slender guy, and he had a real raspy voice. His name was Bill Wilson. We called him Pastor Bill, and he would look at me, and he'd point his finger in my face. He'd say, "Ryan!" That's how he sounded. I'm not kidding. If somebody sounds like that, you listen to him. "Ryan, the need is the call. The need is the call. The need is the call." I believe we wake up wanting to matter, wanting our life to have meaning, wanting to belong in this world, wanting to have that sense that we're important. Not so that someone can put us up on a pedestal and say, "Look at them," but just simply so that we can live our life in a way that others are impacted in a positive way. That we leave the world a better place in which we found it. Which I think would be a good thing to do, wouldn't it? I think it would be great to discover ways to do that. And the way that we discover that is we discover, what am I passionate about? What moves me? What drives me? Not just so that as a credit union within your community, you can look at all the charities and say, well, I like that charity and that charity is good. And we're just going to write some checks and take some pictures and put it on Facebook. And there's nothing wrong with that. But I'm talking about, what are you so passionate about it moves you to get your fingernails dirty? To get involved in the good of your community? Have you discovered that yet? If you haven't, when I talk about bringing your soul to work and to life, that's the end result. That's the end game of doing that. When you bring your soul into your day and you have a sense of meaning and a sense of belonging, you're going to end the day with dirt under your fingernails sometime. You're going to smell like a smelly kid who's 5 years old, 6 years old, who just needs someone to listen. You're going to have some emotional baggage through your day because you talk to a family who's falling apart, a family member who has a broken family or lost a loved one. It's the messy stuff of life that when we get into our passion, it moves us. And all of us are passionate about something different because we're all just a little bit odd. Could you look at the person next to you and tell them you're just a little bit odd? We're odd in the way that we all have a sense of purpose and passion that is different. When we're at home and my daughter Brenna and I are watching TV and Sarah McLachlan comes on the commercial and she starts singing in the arms of an angel. You don't want me to sing, because that'll be the end of my presentation, I promise you. And that comes on and they have the dogs and the dog's crying and they're in the cage. She can't handle it. And it moves me, but it doesn't draw me to tears. Not because I'm a bad person, I just have a different passion than she may have. But when there's a hurting animal, she's the first to jump up and do something about it. What gets you up out of your chair to make a difference in someone else's life? You know, if you're going to start your day with meaning, you have to start your day with gratitude. If you're going to spend your day with belonging, you have to spend your day, and this is where we get really practical. Again, I don't want to just talk about the philosophy behind it. You find a need that moves you, and you just simply do something about it. You find kids without backpacks, as I did 15, 16 years ago. When my family had no money to get backpacks for kids, and we were asking people in the community, could you give $20, $50? We gave away 25 backpacks that first year. Fast forward 15 years later, we've been able to grow that work through business. And over the last 15 years, we've been able to give almost 1 million backpacks with school supplies to kids. Let me stop you, because we clap at the million, but I want to clap for the 25. Because sometimes it's harder to give away 25 than it is a million. Did you catch that? Why? Because sometimes it's harder to start. It's harder to believe that you have what it takes to meet someone else's need. It's easier to hear that someone else is going through difficulty and you just kind of go through your day and say, well, that's not my problem. But what's your passion? And what can you contribute? A lot of times when we look at the world and we say, well, there's too much difficulty in my community, there's too many problems. I don't know, what can I do? What can I do that would be significant enough in the world? And I love this answer, and it's probably not one that you expect, but here it is. Something. Just start doing something. It's the insignificant. It's those that are willing to do the mundane. It's those that are willing to give back when nobody sees. When there's no notoriety, no publicity, nobody knows it. You go out of your way because one of the members experienced tragedy is going through difficulty and you go out of your way to make an impact for that member. It's in those moments where you hear about that family that just needs extra because maybe their house broke down, or maybe they're going through difficulty, or the wife or the husband lost their job and now they're going through a financial difficulty, and you go out of your way as a financial institution, as a credit union, let me say that better, as human beings, you go out of your way to get into that messy space. It's finding a need and doing something, whatever that something is. Let me tell you, if you wake up with meaning because of gratitude and you live your day with belonging because you have that sense of you're meeting needs, you belong because you're contributing and you feel a part of the world at the workplace and outside of your workplace, and here's what I'll promise you. This is how you end your day. Fulfilled. You ever had one of those days where you felt really full because you did some good, and at the end of the day you laid your head on a pillow, you just was like, oh my goodness, I'm exhausted, but I feel good. What is that? We're fashioned, designed in a way that I believe that we're supposed to belong. Not only to those that can give back to us, but to those that need us to give simply because they need us to give. It's in the giving that we receive. It's in the letting go of ourself that we experience that self-leadership. Isn't that interesting? It's interesting that when I focus on me and I get me right, I'm doing that not because I just want to be right, but I'm working on myself so that I can help others well. Because let me tell you something, when you lose your mom at 6 and your dad's on heroin and you go through life, there's a lot of self-work you've got to do. And it's very helpful to have 3 life coaches living with you, and sometimes it's like awesome. There's other times you're like, I don't want to deal with this stuff. It's hard. But you remember there's people counting on you. There's a family that needs you to step up, and step out, and do more than just what you do every single day, but find that significant why. And it's really this idea that the life I lead is the legacy I lead. Legacy. You realize today, and I'm sure Jim feels this, as your CEO, I'm sure many of you feel this as well, because you don't have to be an executive to feel it. Every single one of us, every single day, are living a life that's building and adding to our legacy. Our legacy. And it's not legacy in terms of reputation only. It's not just, let me do all of this so I'm known for doing it. It's truly a legacy of meaning. It's truly a legacy of mattering, not just for myself, but for others. It's a legacy of belonging, not just me feeling that I belong. Certainly self-leadership means that I belong to myself and that I belong to others, but that others belong as well. And I'm going out of my way to make sure that that next member that walks in the door, that next community member, that next employee that gets hired into my workplace, that they belong as well. When the workday is over and I go back home, I live in such a way that I have meaning and belonging and fulfillment at home with my children, and my spouse, my significant other, or even all by myself. That I have that sense of meaning and belonging, and I end the day, every single day, with fulfillment. How do you do that? I'm going to go back to Bill Wilson, who told me the need is the call. He said, Ryan, end every single day with a moment of reflection. Don't end your day without reflection. It's almost as if you start the day with gratitude. You spend your day in a sense of belonging because you look for needs and you do something about it. And then you end your day reflecting upon all the experiences, the people that you met, the things that you accomplished, how you included your why into that day. Now, we can't go and build schools in Zambia, Africa every single day. We may not be able to start after school programs by the end of this year. We may not give away 1 million backpacks. But maybe we can give away 25 in the next quarter. Maybe we can sit down with a broken person and listen to their story. Maybe we can take time out of our busy schedule to remember what it means to be able to share what we're going through in the good times and the bad, and offer that to someone else. The life we lead is the legacy we leave. Every single one of us are given this opportunity. Around 27,000 of them. Some of us have spent more of those than others in here, I know. But we have a lot more to go. Tomorrow we're going to wake up with a sense of meaning, because we're going to wake up with what? Gratitude. We're going to spend the day belonging, because we're going to find a need, and what are we going to do? We're going to do something. We're going to end the day fulfilled, because we're going to live our life in such a way that creates a legacy for someone else. When I was in school that day, when my mom died of suicide, I only had one person who showed up. My dad couldn't show up for me. See? He wasn't capable. Now, the end of that story is that my dad is completely off of drugs, and he's now a foster parent to special needs kids, and he and my stepmom have adopted a lot of those kids. It's an amazing thing. Isn't that awesome? I feel so blessed, so blessed. But in that season of my life, I had one person. One person showed up at the funeral home for me. One person showed up when I was in class every single day. It was my teacher. Her name was Mrs. Overly. She held me on her shoulder in class when I would be going through class, and I would just start crying. When I was at the funeral, she was there. She showed back in my life 30 years later. I've forgotten who she was, and she said, "I've been thinking and praying for you every single day ever since." I had no idea who she was. She said, "You don't remember me, do you?" She's a little old lady about this tall. I said, "No." She said, "Are you Ryan?" I said, "Yeah." She said, "Are you Ryan McCarty?" I said, "Yeah." And she just had tears coming out of her. I usually don't have that impact on people when I first meet them, but she said, "I was your teacher when your mom died of suicide." She said, "I was your teacher when you were in class and you start crying, and I would hold you during class." She said 3 words to me that I want to leave with you here today. She said, "I just want you to know I was there." Mrs. Overly passed away a month ago. I just wanted to show you a picture of her because she's really pretty. If you're going to wake up with meaning, live your day with belonging, and end the day fulfilled, be like Mrs. Overly. She could have been just another teacher. She could have said, "That kid's life is so messy. I don't want to get into that." She chose to wake up with meaning that morning. She chose to live her day belonging to the world and belonging to me as a 6-year-old little kid. She chose to end her day fulfilled. She told me that day I met her again, that you're seeing the picture. She said, "Ryan, I told my husband," I went home from the funeral. She said, "I told my husband, there's this little boy, he has no mom. His dad's a drug addict. I want to adopt him." She said, my husband looked back at me and said, "Would you stay out of people's business. That's what she told me. I was cracking up. This could have been my mom. How amazing is that? She lived a life of legacy. Not that many people at her funeral. No big accolades. There's no quotes on the internet. This is legacy here. Because she mattered to me. Before I leave, I just want to say to each one of you, you don't have to be a teacher, you don't have to be a police officer or minister or fire chief, or you simply have to wake up every day saying, I'm going to mean something today for someone else. I'm going to belong at work. I'm going to belong in life. Because I'm going to end this day fulfilled. What I believe is if you wake up with meaning, live your life with belonging in you, end the day fulfilled, you're going to live a life of legacy. So do that. Because Heritage Trust is going to be known for something. In the communities that you serve, and the members that walk in the door, you never know. You never know when that next Ryan is going to come into your life. So do something. Thank you guys so much.